I think about the way that, like, maybe city people perceive farmers and farmers perceive city people, and that ties in somewhere of like, this is their lived experience, and this is how I conceptualize different people from me, and understanding things. But what would you say that people from the city, because you've been involved in both, what do they misunderstand about farmers?
Oh, wow. There's so many different things. Like I think there's an idea that we assume farmers should live what we think is the ideal of farmers. And a lot of farmers don't want that.
What is that?
So my brother's living the ideal. He has it's supposed to be a red barn, but it's kind of purple because sun bleaches stuff out. He's got like 2 pigs and 40 chickens and 5 sheep. I don't know what he has really, but and then he has this nice big huge garden. Like, people think farmers should live that way. Well, how many people do you think he's going to feed beyond his household and the other people that help him out on his farm? Like, that's who they're feeding. They may sell a few extra eggs and stuff, but right. So for most of us, like, you're not just like a communications guy. You're like doing podcasts for people, right? Like, you're so infinitely niche down. So why do we think that farmers shouldn't be able to niche down and be able to be better at something, right? Mm. So farmers who focus on beef cattle all the time, like, the amount of stuff they know about beef cattle compared to you and me, they don't know anything about pigs though. Okay. And they'll tell you, right? Because that's not their deal. But they live with beef cattle, like, out their back door or something, right? The amount of information they develop and the amount of expertise that they know, and they're going to conferences for multiple days to talk about new diseases that might be on the horizon, or like something as simple as when a cow is out in the field, and we've all driven past them, right? Like, they're out on the pasture and you see all the cows, and if you stop your car, they're probably going to look at you and wonder what's going on. If they're dairy cows, they may come towards you, and if they're beef cattle, they'll go away, right? But if a cow has their head up like that, it probably means they have a respiratory problem, right? I would never know that until a cattle person told me, right?
Totally.
And so learning those kind of things, and farmers love being able to get really deep in stuff, right? Like, they love that. They get that deep knowledge of knowing what they're doing, and generational knowledge. Like, they're calling their dad or their granddad to ask, wait a minute, what else do I need to know? Here's what I'm seeing. I've never seen it before, right? Mm. So I think that's a thing most of us don't think about, right? Like, we work in niches, and we think farmers might not.
Gotcha.
Or something.
Yeah, that does sound right. Because I would assume, like, well, this farmer, if he knows about cattle, he knows about pigs, and he also knows about soybeans, and
but they'll tell you, like, I really don't know about that, and then they get nervous, and I'm like, but the thing is they have far more expertise about livestock than you and I would ever have. No matter what kind of livestock or what kind of crop, they know so much more than you and I do, right? Like, I mean, maybe I'm getting, like, I can beat them on cotton. Some of those the livestock guys I can beat on cotton, but there's a lot of those things that people just don't think about, right? And I think, for most of us, we don't think about agriculture in its wholeness. Mm-hmm. So we think of farmers and farming, and we love the farmers markets. I mean, like, do you?
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
why wouldn't you love them, right?
Oh, yeah.
But like, how many people do you know that really need to work at a farmer's market and interact with people? Like, there's a bunch of people in my family that I'm like, you do not need to be around people that much, right? And so there's some farmers that probably just don't need that, right? Or they live in the middle of Nebraska, and there's not really that many farmers markets that are going to be set up in that one immediate area or something, right? So there's a lot of different things. Some of them are cultural, some of them are scientific, some of them are political. There's, they're dynamic people. How they set up their businesses, right? They're small business people, just like all of us.
Mm-hmm. That's actually, because I have, like, my theory is that every single one of us are really highly social creatures, and if you're an introvert, it's because it was kind of beat into you somehow. But do you see that? Do you see that farmers are typically more, I don't know, antisocial, or are they more outgoing than you would?
I don't think that at all. I think there are farmers that are absolutely introverts, but there are like I'm off the scale as an extrovert. There are farmers that are beyond me.
Yeah,
And
totally.
stuff, right? And there are some farmers that are just like not sure. They don't come in contact with so many strangers in a day,
Right.
right? Like,
That's
I mean,
yeah.
just coming here today, I stopped, I got a haircut, I went to the return something I'd bought that I decided I didn't like. Like how many people did I come in contact with on the way here versus how many farmers are going to come in contact with how many people?
They have
When
to
you
be more
live,
comfortable with being
they
by
have
themselves.
to be,
Yeah.
right? And they also have deeply trusting relationships then. So people like me, born in Memphis, lived in half a dozen states or more. I didn't even know how to renew a driver's license for like the first, I don't know how long, because I moved from state to state every time, right? So renewing it, that wasn't really a thing. But most farmers are pretty close by to either where they grew up or their spouse grew up or something like that, right? And they have a whole network that most Americans no longer have. Like we didn't go to most of us, like when I was young, my parents lived in one neighborhood. My grandmother was still in the same city. Most of my uncles and aunts were in the same city.
Mm-hmm.
My family, my brother's in Ohio, my sister's in North Carolina. I have a sister who was in Japan. Now she's in Memphis. My brother was in Germany and Israel sometimes. Like we're not all in the same place. So how do you make that community of really trusted people with diverse backgrounds and diverse experiences? It's a lot harder. And that gets to the finding people that you can meet in real life and figuring out ways to do that. And finding real world ways to network with people has become the thing. I've moved how many times in my life, and St. Louis, it's even when I moved here, I know I'll work with a lot of people that know agriculture, but I'm going to get a little more serious about this blogging thing and go to blogging conferences so I can meet people that do something absolutely not connected to agriculture. And that was long before I was helping figure out how to connect the dots for people, right? But it was just that curiosity of, I don't want to be totally reliant on, and some people do it through a Moose Lodge or whatever it is, their church or their kids' school or their soccer or whatever it is, whatever you're passionate about and stuff. But a lot of times we only talk to people about that thing that we share. And if you take dinner with them instead of just going to the same games or something, and you talk about other things and get a little uncomfortable, you don't have to get mad, but get a little uncomfortable and shake yourself out of that comfort zone. The growth potential is amazing.
That's right.
That's where you get really powerful connections.
Yeah. This is very in line with the idea of, it's not necessarily how long you've known someone, but it's how many different contexts have you known someone in.
Yeah.
And so, if I were to try to go make a friend as fast as I possibly could, I wouldn't hang out with them all day, every day at the coffee shop. Let's say let's go horseback riding or go watch a movie or go, you know what I mean? Let's go out and do all of these different things.
At some point, you're going to do something you're not comfortable with.
Absolutely.
They're going to do something they're
Absolutely.
not comfortable with. And you learn a lot about each other and yourselves.
Yeah, totally. Right? So if you were to take a farmer and you found out he or she was moving to St. Louis City, how would you teach him how to integrate into the city and into
so
a community?
Funny. I haven't really, I had a friend who moved here from Iowa. She's back on the farm. Okay. So she was a farm kid, and she had moved to Des Moines, which is somewhat of a city, right? But it was in Iowa. So you still have, I think people here have the same thing. They have all their friends from Mizzou, or they have all their, whatever it is, right? And so when she came here, her husband got a job here. So she was coming, okay, what do I do? And the thing of helping her get to meet other people that have a little bit of shared experience, so she has that comfort zone, but then the other things are going to be uncomfortable, and helping her kind of navigate some of that. And, let's go to a happy hour with my friend so-and-so. And then after a while, that friend would invite her somewhere else, right? And you just start getting to know other people and start figuring out what else is around you that maybe you wouldn't think to look for. Right? There's
totally
different things that you always went to immediately in your hometown. And this is something, if you've ever moved from one place to another, you really have to do that. Right? So, and and like figuring out what to experience in the city. Like, oh man, I mean, I've taken God knows how many people to Forest Park for
Yeah.
different things, right? And go, here's the deal. Like, this is amazing, right? And then there's like this Carl's Burgers over on Manchester, right? And once you find that, and it's like, no, if you don't have cash, they're not. I mean, like
Yeah.
you have to have cash, or that ATM is going to charge you a huge fee, right? Like,
Yeah.
like, but there's all those things, and getting into neighborhoods is part of it, right? So if you're only on the big streets with the big names and that stuff, you're probably not getting to know the city at all. You got to get on some back streets and
get on those unpaved, unshoveled.
Oh yeah.
Streets,
Oh, right
streets that
now.
don't get the snow on them.
Yeah, the ones where they have not had trash pickup in weeks.
Yeah, right. That's where you really know.
That's when you know you're. Yeah, that would be hard for farmers.